Welcome back to Horror History, the podcast where we unravel the most chilling and mysterious events from the pages of history. I am your host, Vigilante. Today we're traveling back to 1692, to the small Puritan settlement of Salem. What began as strange behavior among a group of young girls quickly spiraled into a full-blown witch hunt. Accusations flew, families were torn apart, and over 20 people were executed in one of the darkest chapters of early American history. Why did this happen? What fueled the fear and hysteria that gripped Salem? And what can we learn from this tragic event about the dangers of mob mentality? Grab a seat by the fire, but don't let the shadows fool you. This is Horror History, Season 1, Episode 9, The Salem Witch Trials, Fear, Hysteria, and Injustice. To fully grasp the Salem Witch Trials, we must dive into the world of the 17th century Puritan New England, a time of strict religious codes, social isolation, and perversive fear of the devil's influence. The Puritans believed that Satan was an ever-present force, actively working to corrupt their community. This worldview created fertile ground for suspicion and fear to flourish. Salem Village, where the events unfolded, was a small, struggling settlement on the edge of Massachusetts Bay Colony. It was plagued by divisions, land disputes, family rivalries, and the economic tensions between Salem Village and the wealthier, more progressive Salem town. These fractures fostered a resentment, mistrust, and readiness to blame others for misfortune. In the winter of 1692, this tense environment began to unravel. Betty Parris, the 9-year-old daughter of Reverend Samuel Parris, and her cousin, 11-year-old Abigail Williams, began experiencing alarming symptoms. They screamed, contorted their bodies, and uttered strange, incomprehensible sounds. Other girls, including Anne Putnam Jr. and Elizabeth Hubbard, soon displayed similar behavior. The community turned to their faith for answers. The local physician, William Griggs, declared that the girls' afflictions were not medical but the result of witchcraft, a diagnosis that aligned with the Puritan belief system. Reverend Parris and others demanded to know who was responsible for bewitching the children. Under pressure, the girls named 3 women. Tituba, an enslaved woman in the Parris household who was an easy target due to her outsider status and her connection to non-Christian traditions. Sarah Good, an astute woman with a reputation for contentiousness. And Sarah Osborne, an elderly widow who had long been a subject of gossip due to her nonconformity. These initial accusations set off a chain reaction. Fear spread rapidly, and the idea that witches were in their midst took hold. But this was just the beginning of a tragedy that would claim the lives of innocent people and leave an indelible scar on American history. The accused women were brought before the local magistrates, John Hathorne and Jonathan Corwin, for questioning. The hearings were chaotic and often theatrical, with the young accusers convulsing, crying out, and claiming to see specters of the accused tormenting them. These displays captivated the audience and convinced many of the defendants' guilt. Perhaps the most controversial aspect of these trials was their reliance on spectral evidence. This meant that testimony based on dreams or visions, essentially, claims that a person's spirit or specter had attacked someone, was admissible in court. It was impossible for the accused to defend themselves against such intangible accusations. The paranoia escalated, and more people were accused. Entire families were implicated, and accusations often stemmed from personal grudges. One of the most tragic cases was Rebecca Nurse, a 71-year-old woman widely respected for her piety and kindness. Despite numerous appeals and public outcry, she was found guilty and executed. Her case revealed that even the most virtuous individuals were not safe. As the number of accused grew, so did the gruesome punishments. Between June and September of 1692, 19 people were hanged, on Gallows Hill. Another victim, Giles Corey, was pressed to death under heavy stones after refusing to plead in court. His final words, "More weight," became a grim symbol of resistance to the unjust proceedings. The methods of interrogation and imprisonment were equally harsh. Accused witches were subject to brutal conditions, cramped jail cells, cold, and starvation. Some, like Sarah Osborne, died while awaiting trial. The frenzy even extended beyond Salem. Neighboring towns became caught up in the hysteria, with accusations spreading like wildfire. By the end of the trials, over 200 people had been accused of witchcraft. By early 1693, the Salem Witch Trials began to lose momentum. Prominent figures, including Governor William Phips, grew skeptical of the court's reliance on spectral evidence. The intervention of the clergy, particularly Increase and Cotton Mather, added to the calls for moderation. Though Cotton Mathers initially supported the trials, he later advocated against spectral evidence. The tide finally turned when Governor Phillips dissolved the court of Oyer and Terminer, the special court established to handle witchcraft cases. The remaining prisoners were released, and the use of spectral evidence was officially discredited. But the damage was irreversible. Families were broken, reputations ruined, and a deep sense of betrayal lingered in Salem. Efforts were made to compensate the victims' families, but these acts of restitution could not erase the trauma. The Salem Witch Trials have left an enduring legacy as a cautionary tale about the dangers of fear, ignorance, and unchecked power. They reveal how social tension, religious zealotry, and personal vendettas can create a perfect storm of injustice. Today, the trials are remembered as a dark chapter in American history and a powerful reminder of the importance of due process, evidence-based justice, and the protection of individual rights. Thank you for joining me on this journey into one of the history's most infamous events. The Salem Witch Trials stands as a chilling example of how fear can spiral into tragedy, but they also serve as a lesson in resilience and the ongoing fight for justice. If you found this episode compelling, please consider leaving a review and sharing it with others who are fascinated by history's darker tales. And don't forget to follow Horror History for more stories that dive into the shadowy corners of our past. Until then, stay curious, stay cautious, and as always, stay safe. Peace.